Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Soul Focus Radio. This is your host, Martin Friedman, and I am excited to be joined by our CEO, Mahdi. How you doing, M?
I'm doing great, Martin. It's good to hear your voice. Good to be on air. Good to be alive. Lots of things to celebrate, bro. I'm just happy to be here.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, let's do that. Let's talk about it. What are you celebrating most today? What are
Well,
you celebrating most?
what I'm celebrating most is the acknowledgement of what I would consider the name of the game. The name of the game of life really is like to really embrace the idea of wanting to be known by people. That's something that I've
Mm,
struggled with throughout my life. Even though I've been in the leadership position, just about all my life, I've been a leader. But I've also had that inner conflict with just leaning into the idea of letting people know who I really am. And what I mean by that is like really opening myself up to people so they can get to know my soul. And so I'm
mm.
celebrating, the reconciling with myself and the full acceptance of being known.
That's beautiful. For me, what I say I'm celebrating today is I'm celebrating the opportunities that life gives us to have a better day today than we had yesterday. No
Beautiful.
matter how good yesterday was or bad yesterday was, today is an opportunity to have it be even better.
I really like that.
And yeah, right? And it's about the things that are in our control. Something might happen to me out of my control today, but everything in my control, I can make it better than it was yesterday. And I just woke up thinking about that, and I'm really feeling that right
I mean,
now.
think about how powerful that is, though, because that's a powerful perspective.
Hmm.
Today there's an opportunity that wasn't there yesterday, and you are taking ownership of that. So that's wow. To be honest with you, when you're coming from a
Hmm.
place of where you're seeing yourself as a victim, you're seeing yourself as having no control of your life, having no say so of the direction you're driving, when it's not really true. You are making choices every day. You know.
That's right. And if the exact same thing happens to me today that happened to me yesterday, whatever that is, like I said, good, bad, ugly, in between, medium, whatever, I know I can always handle that situation better, no matter what it is. I can always maximize it.
Well, if you're looking at
Um,
yourself, if you're really paying attention to
yeah,
yourself, but if you are distracted
exactly.
and other people are your focus, then you could walk away from that moment or walk away from the situation where the same thing happened to you yesterday, happened to you the day before that, and you think that somebody else is doing it to you versus it's some choice that you're making that's causing it to repeat itself over and over again.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly how I'm feeling today. Like it's all about choice. It's all about choice and how we create our own reality through choice. And any given situation we can handle like an infinite number of ways, right?
Right.
So choosing to handle it in a way that feels like growth oriented and loving and as positive as possible. That's really what I'm holding today and what I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating that we live a life that gives us these opportunities, which is kind of incredible.
It really is when you
It
think
really
about it,
is.
especially coming from where we've came from. Our
Yeah,
both our journeys have been a journey of coming from struggle to get
that's
to this
right.
place where we are in harmony with ourselves, you know, and that's just a beautiful thing to be able to look back on your life and you see where you struggled so much with yourself, where
Right.
life was difficult, where you did wake up and feel like you were tired and exhausted because you spent most of your time fighting with yourself. And I can
Mhm.
understand now why I was so tired and so exhausted at points in my life.
Mhm.
It's because if you're fighting with yourself in your own mind on a regular basis, life can be draining.
Mm, exactly. And what's crazy about it too, my D, is like that's our like we're fighting with ourselves. Like we're the one person we shouldn't be fighting with ever.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah, and it's exhausting, and most of us are walking around in that state. So yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. So today is a special episode on a lot of different levels. We're kind of closing out our conversation of a new man. We've had a lot of episodes on it, and today what we're going to talk about, my D, is we're going to talk about the strength of a man and all that means, right? And we're just going to use it as a way to segue out of this conversation of a new man and masculinity in America and everything we've been talking about to really talk about what is the strength of a man, because like so much comes up to me, up for me when I say that sentence. And I'm really interested, like what comes up for you when you think about the strength of a man?
Being a man, being an African American man, putting all that aside in terms of, racial stuff, but just looking at the core of what makes, I think, a man strong, or the strength of a man, is his word.
Hmm.
And when I say his word, I mean, how does he relate to what he portrays himself as being? How close is it to who he really is? My strength has been consistent, and my consistent strength has been the fact that what I say is what I've done. I have not lived a life where I was not aspiring to be who I was telling people I was.
Hmm.
And that has always been my strength, that, you could count on the words that come from my mouth as like currency. You could really go to the
Right.
bank off of what I would say. Cause I one of the things that I pride myself on is being honest with people about where I was. That was an honest practice. So in other words, my strength has always been my honesty, my integrity, and my willingness to stand on what was real for me, even though it wasn't popular. What about you? What about you, Martin?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really reflecting on what you're saying, and I think one of the things that comes up for me, my D, is is the question of like, so for me, the strength of a man, I think, is very, for me, it's been very similar, and I would probably say it as integrity, right? I think my father, one of the things that he was very positive that he taught me was he taught me about integrity, and I see integrity a little different now than when I was coming up, but it's so similar to what you just said. I'm trying to think of a more of a different way of saying almost the same thing, but like you're good for your word. If you say something, you mean it. And I've always thought about it, in terms of loyalty, that I've always, wanted to be somebody that could be counted on.
Right.
And, I think one of the questions I'm having right now, and my favorite saying is, what I understand as integrity now is my front matches my back, right?
Right.
And I wouldn't have said that was a characteristic of the strength of a man, because I think back in the day, my front did not match my back at all. And I would just say, well, being loyal and being, having integrity would be, what made me a good man, quote unquote. But
But your front matching your back is integrity.
right. So it didn't, but I had a different definition of integrity is what I'm saying.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Yeah.
Integrity, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, integrity would just, how would I define it in the past? Like, well, I didn't cheat on my partner and different things like that. But I think I was so out of my integrity, but I didn't think I was. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that's the point for me is, there are various times in my life this would have been a very confusing question,
Hmm.
because I think I would have often defined the strength of a man as being like physical strength,
Right. Right. I
not
think I
crying,
think a lot of
things like
I
that.
think yeah, I think a lot of men define the strength of a man from a physical standpoint. That's why we, you know, work out in the gym or try to have big muscles or look at the ideal,
Yeah,
like the superheroes, all the muscular, right? Because it's because
yeah,
we have rooted our strength so much in physical prowess that we have not realized that really the strength of a man has a whole lot more to do than what our physical bodies can do. Some of us have seen the strength,
right.
measure our strength through our penis. You know,
Mm,
how powerful a man is, how what I can do with that, and how many women I have, et cetera, et cetera. That for a
yeah,
lot of men, that's too what they measure their strength by. But at the end of the day, you ask yourself, what mark are you going to leave? Because I believe,
mm,
excuse me, not me take that word back. Believe is not what I really want to say. I know that every human being wants to be known,
mm,
right? And so whatever
mm-hmm,
we become known by, really will determine our strength.
mm,
What is the strength of that person? It's what they are known for out in the world. Somebody may have lying may be somebody's strength. Not saying that lying is like something to aspire to, but I'm saying some people are known for their lying.
Right.
Right? Some guys are known, they lie all the time, they're bullshit, full of shit. That's their strength. In other
Right.
words, that's the point of reference that people relate to them by. And so if that's your strength, then people are not going to really want to get to know you, because who wants to be around somebody who's strong about lying, who's strong about bullshit?
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
It may sound a little
Yeah.
backwards, but there's a lot of people out there who have a strength. It's a negative strength. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And a couple things come up for me as I listen to you. One, I definitely always felt like in the past, like I would come up short in a lot of what you talked about in terms of the measuring of strength of a man. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't out there sleeping with a lot of women. I didn't, I didn't think I was walking around with a powerful penis, to put it as you said it. And also I would say that, physical strength, I mean, that's never been my thing. And so it's such an interesting question, because it really is a redefining. And like over the course of my life, I can say, from going from seeing that not seeing myself as a strong man to seeing myself as a man with strength, it has been a long and somewhat painful and beautiful transition, and, our listeners met Felicia, over the last 2 weeks. And, she's been a huge part of that. My last partner, Lisa, was too. And Felicia has really helped me see things as strength I didn't see before,
Right. Right.
Which is a gift. That's a huge gift,
I think about how I trust myself totally now, and that
Mm.
journey to trusting myself totally, it was a hell of a journey. It didn't come overnight,
Mhm. Right.
but we were all born trusting ourselves, and then that trust was interfered with, and we went through a period of believing and being taught that we shouldn't trust ourselves. We shouldn't lean to our own understanding. And so we
Right.
grow up doubting ourselves, in a lot of ways suspicious of ourselves, which makes life what we see it today in the world, where people are struggling so much because they are suspicious of themselves. Me embracing honesty was also my path to trusting myself, because it was at the points in which I was honest, and it seems like the possibility of losing everything could have been imminent from me being honest about what I was honest about. And the total
Right.
opposite happened each time, that gave me the strength to lean into the honesty, and would therefore brought me to trusting myself totally. Now, I'm
Mm.
able to get a whole lot of things done in my life and in the world with people, because I trust myself. Like I'll get on this podcast like we on now, and there's no notes. You don't have any notes. What we do is
No.
we trust that we could, what has to be said will come up naturally in the conversation. We trust ourselves to be able to put ourselves live and just and talk. We trust our authenticity. We trust our truth. We trust our inner realities enough to show up as ourselves, and not show up thinking that we have to perform, act a certain way, pretend to be something, be professional, or talk with a certain accent, all that bullshit. We come real because we trust ourselves. And I would say that, along with being honest, is my strength. I trust myself and I'm honest.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And I think that's not, yeah, again, that's not traditionally how strength has been defined for men. What you said previously, not this last piece that you just said, but right before I heard you transition, you stopped saying strength of a man and you said strength of a person. And, that kind of struck me, Mahdi, because everything you just said is really not exclusive to men,
No, it's
right?
not. It's not.
Like everything you just said. So even when we talk about the strength of a man, how do you see that different as the strength of a woman, strength of a child, strength of a person? How is that differentiated?
I really don't see any different. I see that we all have a go-to, and we learn what that go-to is. It's like I said earlier, some people's go-to is lying. And it's because
Right.
that became a habit for them. They developed a habit, a tendency to lie, and they think it works for them, right? It works
Right.
until it don't work. but that's their strength. When what I see that could be male, female, that could be non-binary, sexual oriented.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's like what we developed as we are growing in this world, what we learn to look to, either out of survival, because that's a whole nother thing too. Because what we look to for strength out of survival is different than we look to for strength when we decide to live. Right?
Hmm.
Totally different,
Hmm.
right? Because some people will have this, this way of exaggerating and embellishing upon their reality as a means of survival. Because you're not going to live with that. That can't be a strength if you're living. So I see that
Right.
there are different strengths if we are surviving, hanging in there, doing our best to make it, trying to get over on versus if we are really embracing our life and fully leaning into the beauty of it, right? So something different has
Hmm.
to be your strength then than if you're in survival mode, right? Because we do things in survival mode that oftentimes we're not proud of. And we develop strengths in survival mode that in a lot of cases will not translate over to living.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And so much of what you had me thinking about, my D, is that, when you mentioned the different socialized, gender ways we look at gender, right?
Right.
When you mentioned that, it made me think about we all have the same journey, and the journey is going to be defined differently based on that. So when we say a strength of a man, ultimately it's the same strength as any other human being, regardless of gender identity, being, binary, non-binary, all of that stuff, right?
Right.
However, there's a different journey to get there because of the
Because of the
socialized aspect
socialization,
of being a man.
because
Yeah.
it's like programs. They're
Right.
we as a male man, we have been programmed to think and behave in a certain way, which has caused us to gravitate toward certain ideas about what strength means. And then
Hmm.
for a female who's been socialized as woman, there's been socialization around what it means for them to be strong, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
most of it is all programmed, you know.
Hmm.
And
Right.
living is something that happens when you step outside of the program. Like when you begin to realize that the life your parents chose for you, or the life that you learn to start living based upon what everybody else wanted for you, that life is not making you happy. When you wake up to that, you then begin to realize that you have to now intentionally start creating a life of your own, a life that looks like what you want it to look like, a life that feels like what you want it to feel like. And then you will find that you
Hmm.
will develop a totally different strength to support
Hmm.
living than you did with just hanging on. Because I have a lot of clients, right, from all around the world. And I've worked with a lot of clients who are physicians who became physicians for their parents,
Hmm.
but were totally unhappy as a physician, right? And so as a physician, they were in survival mode as a physician. Now, this may sound crazy to somebody who has been socialized to look up to physicians and to honor physicians, and well as we should. But my point is, being a physician was not the end all for this person because it wasn't what they really wanted to do with their life. So when they woke up to it, it was a struggle because they're like, how do I give up this prestigious position in society to do what I really want to do? And what I really want to do is not socialized as a prestigious position, right?
Hmm.
So they had to
Right.
then develop some new strengths for themselves, right? That would be their go-to in order for them to live and be happy. And sooner or later, just about all of us going to come to that realization, because that's what the great resignation is about. Everybody leaving these jobs because people are waking up to the reality that the life they've been living was a life assigned to them by their ego and not a life that they consciously chose for themselves, right? And so when
Right.
you consciously choosing a life for yourself, the strength your point of strength is totally different than the point of strength you have when you're living the program life.
And that's really how, like, that's how I've heard you say in that soul focus group. That's how we define power, right? Is the ability to see, to believe, really, to believe that you can create your own reality, to believe that you have choices. Because so many of us don't believe we have choices. We think we're locked in. And that to me is like, that's the old man. The old man is, the old definition of being a man is feeling locked into, a certain type of definition of masculinity, of strength. And what we're saying a new man is, the new definition of a man is where you have choices inside of society's viewpoint of what a man is, but you still have choices. Like, you can be a man and cry. You can be a man and, work out a lot and still cry. And you can, it's just, we always have the choices. Any given situation, the real power and the real strength is to know that you can choose something that makes sense to you, not just because society's been telling you all this time that that's how you have to react
Right.
in a given moment.
And you know what, Martin, the honest truth, like higher level truth, is that man is just a damn word.
Right.
That we assign
That's it.
certain meaning to. It's a social construct. It's a word. It's not,
Right.
it's not a soul.
Right.
It's something that somebody defined, and then somebody else came after them and start trying to live into it because the person that came before them told them that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Right. So we come into this world as people already here who have defined things, who said what things are supposed to be or should be. And then we follow because we believe what they say, and we follow behind them, and we just then apply the same meaning. But that's just a word. And life is more than just a word. Life is about expression. And what we are really here to do is to have our expression be known. Every human being wants to what? Wants to be heard, wants to be felt, wants to be touched without being touched, wants to be moved. Essentially, every human being wants to be known.
Right.
And, being a man does not necessarily mean me being known. If I follow the script that what this world said a man is, then that would mean I would not be known, because most men aren't known because they don't open themselves up because of they're living how the script that they were given about what it means to be a man. Tough. You don't share your feelings. You don't have no emotions. You take it hard, So that means not being known. And for years, I followed that script. I was not known. I didn't know myself, and others did not know me. I would be with people, and it felt like I was a million miles away from them, even though I was with them. We weren't talking about anything real. We weren't connecting on any real level. It was just superficial stuff. So you live that way. It's like, well, damn, I went all this time. Nobody knows me. And when I'm not talking about my name, I'm talking about the core of who I am, to be known, to be felt, and to say, that dude really moved me. That dude really inspires me. To be known. When we get caught up in these definitions, we sort of interfere with ourselves, the possibility of us being famous. Right?
Right.
That's all famous is. Fame is really about being known through our soul, not known by our ego, but through our soul.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And as you were talking, I was thinking about the breadth and depth of the conversations we've had during this series. And that, what you just said, kept coming up over and over, that is so limiting. Like, be a man, this is what it means to be a man, act like a man, just thinking about this wide range of people that we have who have been socialized as men, and how there was this theme that kept coming up that isn't who I am at the core. That's just not who I am at the core. And that each conversation that we had over the course of these last several months always had a theme, a sort of a painful, emotional, like, awakening, which became beautiful. But the pain, you and I talked about one of our most talked about episodes is, butterfly and caterpillar, right? And what I heard in this series was that, the man is the caterpillar, and that you can't be a butterfly until you embrace your full humanity. And when you talk about being known, I think about that butterfly. The butterfly is known. And
yes, the butterfly is known. Yes.
the butterfly is known, and you can't be a butterfly if you're stuck in these old, externally given definitions of who we are and what we are really, right?
Well,
and
the
what
thing,
it means to be.
the thing is too, is Martin, is that we have literally been fighting for a world that has never existed.
Hmm.
And it's been
Say more what you mean.
Well, what I mean by it is, if you listen to the things people are fighting for, they don't really exist in the constructs that they're fighting for.
Mm.
Like, for example, fighting for what it means to be a man. That really has never worked for us anyway. It has
Right.
always been a thing that has stopped us from really knowing each other. The men that have come before me have been men that have been hard and rugged, and very few made themselves available authentically to be known.
Right.
I mean, that's been the norm. The norm has been being rough and tough and hard. And, that was, so we were fighting, we were supposedly fighting to keep that alive when that has not worked for us to create healthy, balanced families across the board. Look at our world. Our world is not what we want it to be. How
Right.
did it get there? It got there because we've been fighting for stuff that wasn't working, but we were just programmed to do it. And so because it's a part of our program, we were unconsciously, automatic pilotly working to keep it alive because we thought that that was the key. Work hard. Well, how long have we been hearing work hard, work hard, work hard?
Mm.
And come on, come
Yeah.
on. Can we wake up to the reality that sometimes working hard works and sometimes it don't? And it's not a blanket thing for all the time if you work hard. We live in a society that people work too much,
Hmm.
out of balance. I mean, for years I would work all the damn time. I didn't
Yeah, me
have
too.
very little balance or work-life balance, which means I wasn't available to be known by my children because I was so busy working. Why? Because we were socialized that you work all the time as a man. That's what being a man meant. Working, 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 working.
Right.
But what about expression? What about living? What about breathing? What about smelling? What about touching? What about the nuances of life that really life offers us all to come into this world and to really be known by ourselves, by others? And life becomes rich, fulfilling, like flavorful coffee, that you love to taste every
Mm.
morning. Life can become that way for us, but we have to realize that the words that we've been putting ourselves into, boxing ourselves into, are just beginning points. They're not the end point, just the beginning, just jumping off. So we jump off where we used to think a man is, and to create now our own understanding of what being fully alive as a man, a cisgendered man, means in the world today.
Yeah, I think those are some great words to wrap us up, Mahdi, because I just what we've been fighting for, and all we do right now is fight in this country. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like it's just overwhelming, and that's part of the fight. And there's just so much that all we do is fight right now and argue, and I there's no quote unquote one side that does is better or worse than the other right now, because everybody's doubling and tripling down on that fight. And the fight that you talk about in terms of what is a man, it just everything you said is so profound, because it's an internal fight. It really becomes about us fighting with ourselves. How many men, how many humans, but since we're talking about men, how many men live quote unquote double lives,
I
right?
know, I know.
Put themselves out there, like the front not matching the back. I remember years ago, before like porn was on everybody's phones, and you people would order it like pay-per-view through their cable, right? And they did a study of it, and they found out that the use of porn was like highest in areas that were religiously conservative,
Hmm.
and socially conservative. And all that shows to me is that people are not, the majority of people watching this porn were men. They were not being honest about their desires. And so you have to create a second life, a second reality, whatever that looks like, whether it's, cheating with other women, whether it's being secretly gay, on the down low. But so many people have created a second life, a double life, because so many men have done this because they have not felt like they could be honest and that their front could match their back. That inner fight, and that leads to like a lack of self-trust, as you mentioned, and it also leads to like self-hate and self-disgust. And
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
we got what happens when you have a society full of people that hate themselves or are disgusted by themselves. You have a society that fights with themselves and each other,
Yes.
exactly where we are right now.
Yes. And you have a society where people don't trust their truth,
Yeah,
because
right.
that's what you're saying.
Exactly.
It's like we all have this
Yeah.
truth that's going on in our lives and we're not trusting it. We're not trusting what we're
Mm.
feeling. We're not trusting the unhappiness that we got to trust your unhappiness. What I mean by that is trust that you're unhappy for a reason. The shit ain't working.
Right,
Trust it.
right.
Trust your
Right.
dissatisfaction, trust it. Stop making it, like it's not real. Trust it and move on it. Move on it to know that, listen, it could be different. You wouldn't be dissatisfied if it couldn't be different. If this was
That's
if
right.
this was the life meant for you, then you would never be dissatisfied. If the life you're living was the life that was meant for you, you would be so happy in it. It would be like you probably wake up every morning in tears from the happiness if this was the life meant for you. But if you're waking up and you're unhappy, you're dissatisfied, you're full of regret and resentment, trust your resentment, trust your regret. It's talking to you. There's
Hmm.
something else available. That's what it's saying.
Hmm. I know you got a fancy mic over there. Otherwise, I'd tell you to drop it.
No, I can't
You
drop this mic.
can't drop that one. You can't drop that one. But that was a drop. That was a mic drop moment, And I mean, just man, like we could fix everything by just being ourselves, being true and authentic to ourselves. That's what I hear you saying,
Yeah,
my
just
D.
being honest. Because it
That's
took it
it.
took me to what I learned was there's so much strength and honesty. Oh my God. From
Mm,
and I know we at the end, as a little boy
yeah.
who went into a TGNY with my aunt and uncle who were close to my age, and I went in there and I shoplift an airplane.
Mm,
And I went home. I didn't tell them. They didn't know. When we got home, they discovered that I shoplifted an airplane, a little tar airplane.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And they said they were going to tell on me, but they said they wouldn't tell as long as I did everything that they asked me to do. And every time the signal was when they wanted me to do something for them, they would do the power symbol with their arm, where they make a muscle and point to their muscle.
mm-hmm,
They had power over me, and so they
mm,
manipulated me all day until my grandmother got home from work, and I got so tired of being manipulated by them and them threatening to tell on me that I walked back to the
mm-hmm,
store. I walked to the register and I told the lady, I said, Miss, I said, I stole this when I came in the store earlier, but I want to bring it back. And she says to me, she
mm,
says, oh my God, who does this kind of stuff? I'm so
mm,
I'm so proud of you for being honest. She says, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pay for the airplane for you. And here's your receipt. So she gave me the receipt in the airplane. I went back home. I never told my aunt and uncle who was still playing the power game with me. And when my
mm,
grandmother came in, they says, well, they asked me to do something for them, and I told them I wouldn't. So they said, we're going to tell. And I said, go on and tell. And they proceeded to tell that I stole it. And I said, no, I didn't. I have the receipt right here. She's like, well, I thought y'all said he stole it. And they were like, they didn't even know what happened because I snuck back out to the store and did that. And so I
mm,
ended up telling my grandmother the whole truth. And she too
mm,
embraced it. She's like, boy, that's a wonderful thing that you did that. That
mm,
experience taught me to trust my honesty.
mm.
We have been taught to be afraid of our truth, but if you trust your truth, it will set you free.
Hmm. There you go.
Hoop, there it is.
Yeah. In reference to one of our mentors. That's it, man. That's it. Like I said, that was your second mic drop moment. We're not dropping mics, but that was your second one. So let's close out on that, my D. I think this has been a very, very special series to me
Yes.
on so many levels. I think being able to, just talk to you and all the different men that we've been able to talk to from so many different perspectives and viewpoints and just how we are all just working so hard, as you say, to be known and just want to be clear with our listeners that known is not, our ego is already known, but we're asking that our soul be known to the world because we've been forced to keep our soul in the background.
Yes.
And so we're saying, when I hear you say, my D, to be known is to be our true, authentic, trusting, loving, honest self that we want to be known to the world.
Yes. Yes. I want to be known.
Yeah, that's it. So thank you. Thank you, all of the people that have participated in this series. Thank you to all of our listeners. As always, we cannot express the level of gratitude we have that you come on this journey with us and that the response that we've gotten for this particular series has been overwhelming. There's somebody, that's been using this with their, at their workplace to talk about masculinity and men already, and it's even before we finish the
That's
series, it was being
beautiful. That's
used.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. And
Thank
I think it shows the need for this conversation,
Thank you for that too. And don't forget to come to our website, soulfocusgroup.com, and look at some of our
That's right.
other offerings. We have a complimentary course called, Living as Part of the Solution. Make sure you sign up for that. It's free. It's an ebook. It will take you on a journey of being able to see if you are operating from a place of solution focus or a place of problem focus, and how to make that shift. Go to our
Yes.
website right now, and matter of fact, sign up for it. Don't waste the opportunity to get on board with this train that's moving toward a very, very productive and happy life.
Yeah, thank you for that. Please check out what we have. And our website's about to be, brand new website's about to be debuted, and lots of new things coming, and some new and exciting things coming on the podcast as well. And look for a brand new format. Look for some new voices coming up next month. So we're so excited to have you all with us, as always. And we want to thank you. We want to tell you we love you. We want to ask that you stay safe, you stay well, you become known. Who you really are becomes known to the world. And we ask most of all that you stay soul focused.